But the suspect is named Timothy Scott Hansen, has a birth date of 3/5/55. This is the suspect that is deceased. We do have a call history at the location of 7200 Braemar Lane. We've got domestic disputes and disturbances this year in 2009 and 2008, and going back to 2000, between 2000 and 2007, we have more than 20 police calls to the residents. I'm not releasing the information at this point on the identity of the officer. This is, we're still kind of in the early stages of investigation, and just to make it clear, this investigation is being conducted by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and our role right now is to support them and give them the information they need. What I can tell you about our officer, though, is that our officer is an 8-year veteran of this department. This officer is a member of our special response team, has received multiple decorations and commendations in this officer's career, including commendations for life-saving and heroic efforts in the line of duty. This call started as a domestic disturbance, domestic abuse call. And domestic calls are one of the more common calls we take, certainly one of the most important types of calls we take, and at times it can be one of the more dangerous calls we take. Our goal on any domestic abuse call is to protect the lives of domestic abuse victims, but on occasion we also know that we can put an officer in a situation where they have to protect their lives, and that's exactly what happened in this situation last evening. I was able to speak with our officer, who's still at Regions Hospital. I can give you a little update as to that officer's condition. The officer's doing very, very well, and conscious, alert, and feeling pretty well considering what the officer went through last night. So we're very thankful for that. Really, any further information is going to go through the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and I know you're going to have questions, and I'll be happy to try to answer those, but the sequence of events, the exact dynamics that led up to the shots being fired late last evening on Braemar Lane are all things that are still under investigation, and I'm really not at liberty to release any of that at this time. But I did want to just let everybody know that you know, any loss of life is obviously a very tragic situation. This is a situation that police officers hope they never have to encounter in their career. That said, we're feeling fortunate that we have a police officer that's doing as well physically as this officer is doing. So I'll be happy to try to answer any additional questions, but it's going to be pretty limited. Yes?
So the officer that was shot and the deceased suspect, did they shoot each other?
The officer was shot at and returned fire.
By the suspect?
Yes.
Okay.
Was there any other officers at the scene?
We did have other officers at the scene, yes.
Did your officer respond by, I assume, is your officer a male, first of all, by himself?
Our officer responded with other assisting officers to the scene.
Did this take place inside the home or outside the home?
And we're not releasing any additional information about where exactly. I know there's a lot of information that we're not able to give you at this time. Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is going to be actively investigating this case over the weekend, and we anticipate that there's going to be some more information, but it's going to have to be through the BCA.
So is your officer a male or a female? The officer was injured.
Well, I'm not releasing anything about the identity, male or female, just that the officer is a veteran officer and what I've already shared.
Was the victim of this domestic assault injured?
You know, I don't have that information. That's a good question. I don't have any information about the domestic assault. It was a domestic call that we went to.
How many people were in the home at the time?
And I don't have. There's nothing else that I'm going to be able to release about people in the home, people outside the home, or any other dynamics. You're going to have to get that from the BCA.
How many times was the officer shot?
I'm not going to release that at this time.
Was the officer hit by the suspect's gunfire?
Yes.
Why did you think it was important to share with us the call history of that home?
Well, I think, quite frankly, the information that I'm able to release at this point for the medical examiner's office is to release the suspect's name. And at that point in time, it's public information to start giving some of the history of the call history of the home. That gets on the I can release it list, but it's a pretty small list at this point, to be honest with you.
You kind of touched on this a little bit before in terms of talking about the danger of a domestic call. A lot of us have done stories like this before, in which many officers will tell us that these can be some of the most volatile calls because you don't know what you're going to encounter. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of this domestic
That's
call?
exactly right. I mean, anytime you go to a call where you're coming to somebody's, you're getting called to someone's home for a domestic abuse situation, emotions are high, the propensity for violence is high. You never know what the situation is when you're walking into it. It's a very common call, and these type of calls happen everywhere. And it's the call that we train for and we're ready for, but you're absolutely right. You ultimately never know what you're going to get until you get to that call. And in this case, we had a situation where the officer is having to actually protect officers' lives.
This is the last time you had an officer involved shooting in your town?
It has been about 10 years.
Does that suspect have a criminal history that you guys would have a mugshot on file?
I don't know that we have any mugshots on file. I can provide a more extensive call history that we're putting together, so if there's anyone that wants to get a copy of that, we'll do our best to put that together. We're still kind of gathering that data.
Chief, when's the last time you had an officer shot in the line of duty? Was it a 10-year ago episode, or was it ever?
I don't think we've ever had an officer shot in the line of duty. We had an officer involved shooting about 10 years ago.
Thank you.
Was there a restraining order on this guy by the victim?
I'm not aware if there's a restraining order.
And that last officer involved shooting, was the suspect killed?
Yes. It was also a domestic disturbance call.
Was the suspect hit by gunfire from more than one officer, or just the first initial officer?
The information, and it's very preliminary information that I have, is that the suspect and the officer exchanged gunfire.
So you can't tell us if there was somebody else in the house, a wife, a girlfriend, and anyone who would have been sort of a recipient of whatever domestic abuse was going on?
Not at this time. The BCA is going to be able to provide a lot more detailed information about the specifics of the call here soon, but they're still doing their investigation, and my role at this point is to basically allow them to do their investigation and make sure that I don't compromise it in any way. So they're working on it as we speak.
And I know you said that there were other responding officers, but was this particular officer, by him or herself, the first person on the scene, and were they by themselves?
They were not by themselves. We had other officers responding to the call, but they were among the first officers that responded to the scene, yes.
Can you comment just on the emotions of the day today? I mean, obviously a tight-knit department here. You don't see this kind of stuff too often.
Well, it's a tragic situation. We don't take any time that an officer has to fire his or her weapon in the line of duty lightly. It's a situation we hope we never have. So it's mixed feelings. It's a tragedy, and on the other hand, amongst the police officers and amongst law enforcement, there is also a sense of relief that we don't have an officer that was killed.
Aside from the officer who is recovering, are there any other officers on administrative leave, which is typically standard in shooting incidents?
We're still going to assess exactly what we need to do. I mean, part of what we need to do for our officers is take care of them in the aftermath of being there. You don't have to be the person that's actually involved in the shooting. If you're on a call, something like this, it can be very traumatic. It can have a real profound effect on you. So we're going to make sure that we give all the officers that are involved, or we're on the scene, plenty of time to sort things out.
You said the officer's doing well, so non-life-threatening injuries, can you say?
He's doing very well. I was very happy when I spoke with the officer that there's nothing. Honestly, it was much better than I had thought when I went down to the hospital. So from the information we have, which is early, we're expecting this officer to recover fully.